Tune in to Heartland for the best in true country music. Relive vintage specials, one-of-a-kind concerts, and country music's earliest videos. Heartland is the heart of country, the only place where you can find country music, country stars, and country lifestyles 24/7. Heartland, the heart of country.
Now on channel 13.2.
Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. Hey, my friends, it's reconciliation through mediation. What? What am I talking about? I don't know. You'll see on today's program. 436 Me TV option 11. Are you having a dispute with someone? Maybe your better half. That's what today's program is all about. Back in a moment. Back here on the program, my friends, it's Ask an Expert Day here on Connect with Me on Me TV Fresno. And I got to tell you something. Hey, is your blood pressure through the roof? You need to watch this program today, and perhaps your blood pressure will drop by some 90 points, because we'll show you via the expert on how to take care of some of those problems that you've been faced with the last couple of months, or maybe the last couple of years. Who knows? You're going through a divorce, you have a dispute with your neighbor, whatever it is, maybe you had it out with your best friend. Anyway, that's what today's program is trying to reconcile with some of those people through mediation. 436 Me TV option 11. The question of the day is, and we're not going to put it up on the screen because we don't really have it printed up on the screen, but the question of the day is, are you ready to reconcile? Are you ready mentally to do it? Anyway, you're watching us live on Comcast channel 187 and 43.6 and 13.1. That's live, of course, any day of the week except Saturday and Sunday on those three channels. And then the replay comes later in the day at 2 o'clock, 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock at night, 4.6 Biz TV. And then you can watch me on Twitter if you want. I don't know, at John Mallos, Me TV. You can also watch the replay of this show or any show the last 3.5 years on our YouTube channel after it airs. So we're talking about reconciliation. And what do you think about some of these television shows that try to bring two people together and then they try to reconcile, or they try to air their differences out on a television show such as Dr. Phil? Well, you know, I went to YouTube recently, the last few days or so, and I pulled out some clips of a couple either going through a divorce or already divorced. And let me tell you something, my friends. They were throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at each other. Accusations floating back and forth. And it was on Dr. Phil, and Dr. Phil tried to be the mediator. But the question I have is this the right forum to mediate such complex issues in front of a national TV audience? Take a look at this confrontation on Dr. Phil and how he confronts both parties.
They didn't choose this. No. You chose it. The two of you got married. Both of you cheated in the marriage. Both of you lied in the marriage. Both of you have manipulated in this situation. And so your kids are reeling from it. And you may think that this will be a great win for you if they're all with you and hate her. But let me tell you something. Hear what I'm saying.
I will.
Hear what I'm saying. This will backfire on you so bad you will never believe it. You won't see it coming. You will never believe it. The parent that alienates a child from the other parent ultimately winds up being on the very short end of the stick, because these kids get smart enough to start thinking for themselves, and they're going to look around and say, why did you do this way? Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't want to have anything to do with either one of you when they get to a point of independent thought.
I would hope that would be our nightmare, but I have not done that.
Live in our studio to talk about this and Dr. Phil on how you should air out your differences, whether it should be behind closed doors or on national TV. What's the proper forum? It is Camille Valentine. She's been here before. She is a licensed mediator with the family court, my friend. She's been doing this for years, an experienced mediator at hand. And so she is here to answer your questions. She's an expert in this. That's why our segment today is called Ask an Expert. You're free to call in at 436-MeTV, option 11. You know, even if you're having a dispute with your neighbor, you know, sometimes that requires intervention. You don't want it to escalate and then things get out of control. Or are you having a problem maybe with your son or your daughter or a relative or something of that nature? Anyway, 436-MeTV, option 11. We're back with our program in just a moment.
Euronews, most watched news channel in Europe.
Well, my friends, this is the time to settle your differences. No better time than the present, right? And so Camille Valentine is back as our guest here. It's called Camille Valentine Mediation. That's the name of your company, right?
Valentine Mediation. Thank you, John,
okay.
for having me. It is such a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, well, it's good that you're here. You look great today. And I just want to say that oftentimes when I think of disputes, I do think of Dr. Phil. It's because of the high-profile situation, national TV. He gets on there, and I don't know, do you think it's okay to air out your differences on television like that? Does anything get accomplished? Or is it just entertainment?
You know, I believe to a certain degree, no one's making people go on Dr. Phil's show, and a lot of people are interested in going on his show, and for good reason. And for them, you know, whatever those reasons are, it's right. And so if they are able to receive the help and some assistance to help them get past whatever it is that they're going through, then by all means. But that's not the platform that everyone feels comfortable with, and sometimes things are so deeply rooted, John, that they will need to sit down behind closed doors and really deal with the honesty, deal with the injustices, and move past those things. And sometimes that's not aired on TV.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if a lot of that is just for show, or if some of that really is real to a certain extent, and how comfortable do people feel being on national television to air out their deepest of thoughts, their deepest of feelings, in terms of their marriage or their relationship. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't feel comfortable personally, and I can only speak for myself. And I would feel more comfortable with just talking to my partner, my spouse, or whatever. And
or a mediator.
Yes, exactly. I would rather have a trained professional to facilitate the constructive conversation, so that, for one, I can begin to break down some barriers. Two, I can be able to be honest with myself and be honest with the other person. And three, be able to try to work out some agreements so that when we leave, especially if I'm going home with that person, that we can begin to rebuild and reconcile some of the issues that we had.
Would you be embarrassed to go on Dr. Phil?
Oh yes, I'd be very embarrassed. I probably would hold back. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to just
everything?
be. Yes, exactly. I wouldn't be forthcoming on everything. Just the things that I would. I guess I could deal with in the public, because the public can be very, very brutal.
Okay, let's deal. We saw in the monologue, I put up in the monologue that one clip, and it dealt with putting the kids in the middle of a dispute. Okay, pitting one parent against the other, and putting your kids in the middle. And that's the issue that Dr. Phil addressed with both parents, as saying that, you know, when they get older, they're not going to want anything to do with either one of you. Okay, how do you view that issue in that situation?
You know, I really commend Dr. Phil for saying that and making that statement, because in mediation, as a neutral third party, I am not at liberty to tell either party what to do. I am supposed to facilitate the conversation in a way that helps them reach an agreement that it's coming from them. And so in that instance, Dr. Phil, he's being the therapist, telling the parties his opinion. And I'm not there to tell people my opinion about things. My opinion does not matter. What does matter is what the issues are between the two people. And as it relates to the children, it is very, very important not to pit the children against each parent.
So he's right.
He is very, very much right. And even in my divorce mediations, there is a part of the agreement that addresses that. And it says things like, neither parent shall do nor say anything in the presence of the children that will diminish the love and affection that a child or the children will have for the other parent.
Is that
You're
a
not supposed to
document they have to
argue.
sign?
Yes, it is. It's a marital settlement agreement, and it's very detailed, and it's complicated in such a way where it addresses so many aspects of their lives moving forward: visitation, custody, child support, all those different things, so that when the parties are coming to an impasse, if you will, and they're not able to communicate effectively, then they have an agreement that they can fall back on.
Yeah, but how do you enforce that? I mean, that's difficult to enforce, to go to court and say, oh, my ex was talking about me in front of the kids, or or he or she was trying to turn the kids against me. Isn't that hard to enforce?
Yes,
Not
it
only
is.
that, much more difficult to prove.
Mm-hmm. It is very difficult, but it's not people. Usually in the court system, sometimes children are interviewed for whatever reason, if it gets that deep, and the truth will come out in whatever way. The truth will come out. The point of the matter is that what Dr. Phil was saying was that at some point in time, the children will be thinking for themselves, and they're going to understand what parent, or if both parents were manipulating them to have an advantage over them, and that's going to have some consequences.
Yeah, I know, but so what would be the consequence if somebody's trying to manipulate a child to try to gain an advantage? I mean, what's the consequence by the court?
Well, I can't speak for the court, but I do know from the child's perspective, John, that if I were a child and I was going through a situation with my family and I'm being used to such a degree, then I wouldn't want to have anything to do with either one of my parents, and that's the greater consequence of it all.
Like, I know I got to go to break, but here's one thing I can say, and I can use this as an example, and I don't mind sharing this on the air. My daughter said to me recently, she said, because she talks a lot, okay, my daughter talks a lot, okay, she says, I get the talking part from my mother's side of the family, but I get the argumentative side from your side of the family, and you. I said, according to who? I said, according to, she says, that's according to my mom. So, is that something that can be used against her if I ever went to court? I'm not going to go to court over that. That's ridiculous. But I mean, is that just is that a harmless statement or what?
You know, it's an observation, and sometimes parents, you do have to be mindful. Even in my own household, I'm having to be mindful about the things that I say, whether it's about my marriage, whether it's about anything that's going on in my life. I can say that my son is around. If he's in an earshot, he's listening, right? They have elephant ears. And so it's just important to be mindful of the children and what you're saying in their presence, and that can go on any level.
Oh, man. Anyway, I'm not argumentative, am I?
Oh, are you?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is he?
Anyway, according to my daughter, I don't know. We're going to be back here with Camille Valentine. It's called Valentine Mediation, 436-ME-TV, option 11. We're back in just a moment.
Hello, I'm John Walsh. We need your help to capture this fugitive. Alvaro Chavez is wanted by the FBI in Chicago for selling cocaine. A member of the violent street gang, the Almighty Latin Kings Nation, he has a tattoo of a woman and his name on his right arm. He could be hiding out in California, Illinois, or Mexico. If you know where he is, call 312-421-6700.
We're back here on the program with Valentine Mediation. It's Camille Valentine. And if you have an issue, a problem with someone, your spouse or anything like that, going through a divorce, relationship problems, you know, I got to say, my friends, you can call in. Don't be bashful. You can ask her a question. You don't have to give your name. You can even disguise your voice if you think somebody's going to recognize you. See, this is part of the problem. I'll bet we get very few calls today because people are embarrassed to call in. What do you think?
Sometimes it's a new concept. It's mediation, especially when it comes to reconciliation or even issues in a couple's relationship. It's something new. So perhaps they need more information about what this platform is all about and how they can use it to suit their needs.
I will give all that information. In fact, I want to put the first full screen up on the screen right there. I want to talk about the main issues according to you, according to what you told me. So, these are in order, the top 5 problems in a relationship or a marriage. All right, the first problem, and at the top of the list, numero uno, my friends, is sex. Why is sex number 1 from what you've seen?
Well, John, I told you communication was the number 1 issue.
No, you didn't. You said
we were
sex.
Debating on whether it's sex or communication. However, if sex is the number 1 issue in a person's life, perhaps it's because of one of the parties not communicating effectively with the other person to tell them that this is what they're needing from them. And so in those instances, perhaps they may go elsewhere to get that love or that sex or whatever, that that feeling of being wanted or needed. And so having mediation is a chance to communicate with the other party, to express yourself in a constructive way and say, these are my needs.
Right. Well, okay. It's my mistake then. I'll take the fall for that one. But communication, we're going to talk about that later, but sex is high up there. It's got to be, right? Because you have so many people that are cheating. Am I right about that? So sex
infidelity
has to be
is a part of it. It is a problem. And sometimes in mediation, although people are acting out of different emotions and they go and do these things without thinking, and it becomes something that they're not revealing to their partner. And mediation is a way to reveal some of those things. If you care about the other person and you want to move forward with that relationship, you have to be honest.
Okay. Dr. Camille Valentine is here. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Unofficial.
Go ahead.
I'm one of those guys, I'm not bashful about anything. But directed to Camille, in the order that you have those 5 issues, sex, number 1, control, and money. That's my way, okay? But when you're married 40 years, you know for a fact that the sex part will change. I don't care who it is,
Right.
Because, when you're married 10 years, you're still young and whatnot, and you have to keep the flame going. That's number 1.
Yes.
At the control part, if you're both kind of pig-headed and this and that, you want to be the one in control. She wants to be the one in control. So you're both, fighting in it out. But money-wise, it all depends. It depends if you were poor and all that. It's not going to hurt you because you're poor. But if you have 2 good jobs and whatnot, most of the time a lot of women make more money than the men. Okay, and they'll probably throw it at that person or the spouse. Well, I make more money than this, and once you say that, the man loses interest in the marriage. Those 3, those are my issues.
Caller, let me ask you a question. You're still there. You said the sex changes during the course of time after 40 years. Without giving too many details, how does it change?
How does it change?
Yeah.
Well, when you're first married, let's say 10 years, flowers come, candies, and you tell her you love her, this, and that. And then the 20 years come, and it can still be the same. But when you get to 40, it seems like everything just kind of, it's the same routine. But you as a man have to, and as she, have to change everything differently. You have to do things different, like when you're young. When you get older, you just say to yourself in your head, I'm tired of doing the same thing over and over. You're never tired.
Well, do you ever...
You don't get tired of that.
I mean, after 40 years, do you ever lose your sex appeal, your sex drive?
Not I. And I don't think
that's what John says. John says that the man wants to have sex more than the woman, and maybe the woman will be able to give him more sex if he continues to do the things that he did in the beginning 40 years later? What about date night? What about, bringing her some candy or flowers to say, honey, I love you from time to time?
Right.
Sometimes you have to rekindle that flame and don't let it die out before, things are going to hell in a handbasket. You need to just keep that sex alive.
Yeah, the man, I don't care who it is. The woman is the one that keeps the flame going. The man is kind of secondary, And
the woman
keeps the flame going. The man, and that's my argument. The man will kind of follow along, but the woman keeps the family together. It's like anything else. The woman's good in managing. If you got a wife that can manage the budget and all that, the woman takes care of all that, even if she works.
Let me interject here, and I want the caller to stay there. Stay there for a second, caller. I want to see if you agree with me on this.
What?
The woman controls everything in the relationship, especially the sex, because the man always wants sex, but it's the woman that says yes or no, and it's going to depend on the woman's say so as to whether or not it's going to happen on that night. Would you agree with me on that, caller?
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah,
See that?
Sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Hey, if she says, I'm tired of this and that, she just turns you off.
That's right.
That's the problem we
it ain't
men
gonna happen.
don't like,
Well, that means you better be nice and do what she says then, right? I'm just kidding.
All right, caller, that's a good call. Thank you very much. And it brings me to the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Remember that line in there where the woman was talking to the husband, or she was talking to somebody, I can't remember who. She says the man controls the mind and the head, but the woman controls the neck. The neck controls everything, rotating the head. So I don't know if that's true in a marriage.
Well, as a woman, we're supposed to be the supporter. We are supposed to be the neck, and the husbands are supposed to be the head. We're supposed to work together. And when we come to those instances where we're no longer working together and we're not telling each other how we're thinking and feeling about certain things, then that's when the relationship tends to break down. And mediation, whether it's divorce or reconciliation, is something that I want to highlight, is the reconciliation part of it, because, after 40 years of marriage, I'm sure if you continue to date her and treat her as you did in the beginning, and she reciprocates that, then you'll have a healthy sex life, you'll have laughter, you'll enjoy life and take trips and be able to deal with those things that are coming in your marriage that could break it down and overcome them.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, no question. The woman controls everything, whether it's the sex, the money, whatever it is. In
some relationships.
She's got her hand on the switch, right? I mean, if she doesn't say yes, it ain't going to happen.
That is correct.
All right. We're back with Camille Valentine. Valentine Mediation. I'm glad we agree on something.
Yes, we do.
436-MEET-TV option 11 if you're not too bashful to call in. And someone, I don't think they'll recognize your voice. You don't have to give your name. We're back in just a moment.
Attention all units. We have reports of 2 motorcycle cops protecting California's highway.
That's for us, good buddy.
The Men of Chips are on MeTV.
Hi, I'm John Baker. I'm John Baker. He's Officer Baker.
He's the blonde one.
Hi there!
Officer Poncherello, man.
Frank Poncherello.
Oh, I'm Frank Poncherello.
And he's the one who's Eric Estrada.
There's no way I wouldn't remember a name like that.
Catch the blonde one and the one who's Eric Estrada on
now
Chips.
On MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
I think I got the right quote from the movie here. It says the man may be the head of the family, but the woman controls the neck, which controls the head, and it can turn the head any way it wants.
In some cases, yes, that is correct.
Yeah. All right, let's put those back up on the screen, those full screens, the first 5, as we looked at them before. Okay, so we talked about sex. How about money? How big an issue is money?
Money is huge. Some people say that if you make an additional $500, you can save a marriage. And
really?
Finances they play a very big role in relationships.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And infidelity, I guess it mainly stems from, is it because one partner or another, they're not getting enough sex in the marriage and they're going outside to get more, or what?
Sometimes it's attention. Sometimes, it's other things that will lead to infidelity. But if you're not telling each other what your needs are, then
what are the issues that can push you
do?
in that direction to infidelity?
Rejection is one thing. If you reject your spouse all the time and they're not feeling loved or appreciated, or if you're always demeaning them, those are some things that I've seen people walk away from the marriage. Or if they're being abusive or too controlling, you feel that you want to seek security elsewhere, and it's just one of those things that it's a natural part of life. And if you're not dealing with those things effectively, then it could definitely ruin your marriage.
Yeah, and what about control? The caller that called in, that had the courage to call in, by the way. And
yes, yay for calling.
Not identify himself, but at least he had the courage to call in. Talked about control. It can be a power struggle sometimes. I know that for a fact, because I've been married, and oftentimes it does become a power struggle. Who has the most control? And how big an issue is that? And how do you, okay, it's a big issue, we know, but how do you solve something like that in mediation? I don't know how to solve a control issue in mediation.
Well, in mediation, that is a platform that is used to help parties tell each other what their issues are. And if control is one of those things, one party feels as if everything that they decide, the other party has to go along with them no matter what and not have a say-so. And a marriage is a partnership. It's a collaborative effort. And if you feel as if you need to have your way every time, then there's an imbalance in power. And sometimes addressing those issues can help them move past it, and it's just creating an agreement.
How do you get past one controlling the other? How do you solve that?
One person has to be able to yield when, for the sake of the relationship. If I'm saying, okay, John, you know what, every Friday night I want you to take me to the movies and I want to see the movie I want to see, and I not give you a say in that, well, that's not fair. And so to be fair, you want to give that other person an opportunity. This week I'll choose, the next time you choose, things like that.
I see.
And that can help you. Just small things can go a long way. It doesn't have to be about big things. Okay, I decide when we go. I decide when we come. I decide how much money we spend. I decide, everything. That's going to be an imbalance.
You're talking about give and take.
It is a give and take.
With everything. Everything is give and take, right? In life. Right? You can't have your way all the time.
No, you cannot.
Okay. Put that back up there. We'll talk about trust. The last one is trust. And when somebody has cheated on you, how do you gain that trust back? That's a good one.
Trust is built when agreements are made and kept. Trust is not built when agreements are made and not kept. And so for you to be able to trust the other person, you need to be able to come clean with recognizing the injustice and deciding how can you restore the equity and create some agreements that will help you build the trust.
What do you think about couples that maybe they want to hire a private eye to follow their better half?
Well, that's because there's a lack of trust. And if they've asked that person directly, if you feel that you have to hire someone, I don't think it's a good idea,
Why?
I've thought about it. I've certainly I wonder where would I find, what would I learn, things like that. But, if you're wasting your time and energy into doing things like that, I'm thinking that it should be better spent on trying to find the appropriate help, like hiring a professional to help you sit down and figure out what those things are and see if that relationship is worth saving or not. Because if you're going to those great lengths, then maybe you've come to a point where it's time to throw it in and move on with your life.
Now, you know what I read online, and you can't believe everything you read online,
right.
But I read a story recently that said that there are some couples or some individuals that are actually using drones now to follow either their wife or their husband. I mean, they got a drone that follows them to work, to the supermarket, to here, to there. You think that's a little extreme?
For some people, if they feel that that's what they need to get the truth out of someone, then so be it. More power to you. But, I find that to be very expensive, and not everyone is able to use those methods. And so what do you do? What do you do when your partner is not wanting to be honest and you're being forced to go to these extremes to discover?
I think it's pretty fun.
Who you're married to.
Using a drone. Isn't that
That's
great?
hilarious.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Drone. That's this day and age, right?
It is.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Camille Valentine.
Hello.
Yes, I'm back again.
Oh.
I just want to ask you, Camille, this.
Yes.
You talked about the trust and the infidelity. Well, let's put it this way. In my case, I did something wrong 25 years ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's in my case. Okay. I'm not shy to say that, but I'm the one that did it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my wife, for 30 years, held that against me. Okay.
Wow.
Because a woman will never forget what you did. I mean, what you did to her in her back of her head, even
Mm-hmm.
though she forgave you and this and that. Since then, my Lord has been the one that really saved me to keep our marriage together, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's helped me. But when you do that to a woman, and let's say it's the other way around. If you do that to a man or a woman, that trust is gone forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't care if anybody can say this and that, because that person, and behind their back of their head, they're going to always say, if that person did it to me once, they're going to do it to me again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've heard of
yeah.
that saying.
Caller, are you there? I got to go to break. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, just a yes or no real quick, because I got to go to break. Did you cheat on your wife?
Okay. Yes.
You did. Okay. Well, you know what? I commend you, sir, because you got the courage to call in. You're not afraid to tell the truth and be accountable, and neither am I, really. I mean, listen, I'm divorced, and I had problems, and but it's not everything that you read, by the way. It's not everything that it's made out to be. But anyway, there are two sides to every story, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right. We're here with Camille Valentine, Valentine Mediation. Hey, if you're having a dispute, my friends, and I know you may be, everybody's got some kind of deal going on, right? Call in, weigh in, and ask your question to our expert today. Don't be bashful. No one is going to recognize your voice, and you don't have to give even your first name. We're back with our program on this extended break here on Connect with Me.
Hello, I'm John Walsh. We need your help to capture this fugitive. Julio Cesar Guevara Mejia is wanted by the FBI in Sacramento for the attempted murder of a 19-year-old female in November of 2007. Police say he lured the young woman to a hotel room where he shot her 3 times in the chest. He could be in Palm Springs, California or Houston, Texas. Contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI if you have any information.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney. Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law,
and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on MeTV Fresno.
We need help to find this missing child. Delano Wilson was 1 month old when he went missing. He was last seen in Indianapolis, Indiana, August 27th of 2014. If you have any information, please call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. Please help bring Delano Wilson home.
Is taking care of laundry taking too much of your time? Have you become a missing mom?
With a new, fast,
efficient washer and dryer from Ventura TV Video Appliance, you'll spend more of your day the way you want. Save now on Frigidaire's Advanced Affinity Laundry Pair. Let Frigidaire save you energy, water, and time. Don't spend your life on laundry. Upgrade today at Ventura TV Video Appliance and save.
Back here on the program, here on Connect with Me, it's Ask an Expert Day, and we're talking with Camille Valentine. She is with Valentine Mediation. And I want to put some other topics on the screen, full screens, and we can kind of tackle these issues one at a time as we see them on the screen. I want to talk about, and we kind of talked about this, the imbalance of power.
Yes.
By nature, does the man have more power over the woman? I'm not talking from a physical standpoint, but an imbalance of power usually means that one has more power than the other, right?
That is correct. They will make all of the decisions, or will, you know, basically not allow the other person or accept their input when both parties should really be communicating together to make some major decisions concerning their lives, their well-being, their marriage or relationship. And if a party feels as if their voice is not heard and they're not being acknowledged or received, then that's going to force them to want to do some other things.
You as a mediator, when you see this, and how often do you see this, by the way, with couples?
I see a lot of imbalance of power, and what happens is that I can recognize it when one party is talking for, well, they'll dominate the conversation first of all, and secondly, then when it's time for the other person to speak, then they will also speak for them too. And so in mediation, that is where the atmosphere is neutralized and both parties are given an opportunity and encouraged to express themselves in a way that the other party can hear them, and they can also hear each other, listen, and discover some things about themselves.
What do you tell them? What do you tell them to try to resolve that issue?
Well, when I'm seeing one party taking over the conversation or dominating the conversation, I will then just simply say, okay, so hold your comment for a moment. I know that you've had the floor, so I'm going to give him or her an opportunity to speak. And that is empowering to a particular individual if they feel as if, you know, I'm here because, you know, I really want to get some things off of my chest, but I'm afraid. And so in mediation, it's an opportunity to kind of balance everything out and start talking about things that are important to them as well.
Yeah. All right. Put communication up, and we'll talk about that. And you said in your own mind that you told me over the phone that communication is #1 over anything, because it all starts with communication.
I believe it does, John. Communication is huge because, I mean, that's how humans, you know, we have verbal communication and we also have nonverbal communication. And if we're not able to communicate effectively, which most of us, we're not able to, because we're not taught how to communicate with each other. And when we are saying something, the other person may not receive it in the ways in which we've intended for them to receive it. And so as a mediator, I'm able to reframe a certain language so that the other person can then receive what the intended message was. And when we're able to do that, one person may shut down sometimes. They may not like to hear what the other person is saying, but there's certain tools that I use to help ensure that one person is hearing and the other person is being able to speak, so that when the listening is taking place, then we can actually see them internalize what the other person is saying and then have a response to it.
Yeah, communication is awesome.
It's huge.
Yeah, I know it's huge. It starts with everything. I mean, we communicate as humans. There's no question about it. But if the other person, now I just thought of this because I was thinking of my own marriage sometimes. If the other person shuts down and doesn't want to hear the message from their spouse, isn't that a way of being passive aggressive and gaining control, because you're not listening, you're not participating? So no, I'm doing my own thing, I'm in control. Isn't that a way of gaining control of the situation?
Not necessarily, because I mean, you're shutting down the conversation and you're shutting down the communication. And I've been one who will just, you know what, I'm done. I feel as if you're not hearing what I'm saying, and I will shut down on my husband in a heartbeat because I'm feeling like, okay, well,
but isn't that your way of gaining control?
But it's not me gaining control. It's just that I don't like the way or the direction that the conversation is going, and so, you know, we're not going to get anywhere. We're at an impasse. And so when you are having a professional help you, I can see when there's an impasse. I can see when somebody is getting upset, or when they're shutting down or about to shut down, or when they're ready to walk the hell out of the office because they just don't like what's going on. And if you don't address those issues, then you'll never overcome them.
Yeah. All right. Next one before we go to break, domestic violence. Okay, in my marriage, or in my divorce, I should say, I was accused of domestic violence, and I'm often told by divorce attorneys and other people that it's often used in the court system to gain control over children, over assets, and other things. Is that true?
Yes, sometimes people are using domestic violence claims in erroneous ways, and it's an unfortunate thing because domestic violence is a real issue that has to be addressed. And I'm finding that in my marital reconciliation mediation services that domestic violence, it starts off with being something very, very minor, and it just slowly escalates over time until, you know, now you're striking your other person, or just really verbally abusing them, or financially abusing them, not giving them access to the finances and keeping them hostage, different things. I mean, it starts off very, very small, but you can recover from some of those cases where, you know, you just need to be able to talk to the other person, and if there is some help that's needed, then you can address those needs and be able to move forward with your marriage. And so that's what marital reconciliation is all about, is addressing the needs of that individual, whether you need to communicate, whether you need to tell them, I need more sex from you, I need more love, I need more compassion, I need more support from you, or I need you to share the finances with me, I need to know how much we're making, I need for you to be able to share the power with me. I mean, we're in this together, and if we're not talking to one another, if we're not showing love to one another, if we're not expecting anything to change, then nothing will change. And in mediation, you're able to write things down. That's really huge, because we can say, yes, I agree, but then when you walk out of there, it's no agreement because it's not written down. Then everyone gets amnesia. Oh, I didn't say that, or you remember it differently. But when you put it on paper, there's something about the words that's put on paper that makes it very real, and accountability is being enforced in that way.
We've talked about this before. In my divorce, I was accused of domestic violence. Fortunately, the court didn't believe it. You know, I got half custody of my kids, and I'm thankful for that. And fortunately now we have an okay relationship in raising our kids, and that's the goal. The goal is that the kids are okay.
Absolutely,
we're okay,
in those cases.
And we're both doing all right in raising our kids. So
another thing too, forgiveness is really important. The other caller, he mentioned some things about his wife. He admitted the infidelity. Or I don't know if he ever said that he admitted the infidelity or not, but there was infidelity, and how he addressed that infidelity obviously has some impact 30 years later. But forgiveness is very, very important in relationships, whether it's infidelity or whatever you've done. If you're able to recognize the injustices and apologize and figure out ways to restore the equity, make things as right as possible, or to make that person as whole as possible, then yes, you have a very real chance of overcoming those things.
But there are some things that are unforgivable.
And that is correct, I suppose, to that person, but each one has their own choice in the matter. And so, you know.
Okay. We're talking with Camille Valentine, Valentine Mediation. If you've got a problem, see, I knew that we're going to get some bashful people, don't want to call in. 436-ME-TV, option 11, afraid that someone might recognize your voice here. You know, she's giving free advice. Usually she charges for this, for goodness sake. All right? 436-ME-TV, option 11, back in a moment.
We get our speed from Mom and Dad. They do stuff super fast. And now they got this new kitchen, so they're even faster. So they can help us with our free throws.
The time-saving Frigidaire Gallery line with a quick preheat and smudge-proof stainless steel that resists fingerprints and cleans easily. It's mealtime in no time, from start to clean. Frigidaire Gallery.
Save more during Frigidaire Gallery bonus days when you buy 3 or more qualifying appliances. See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Back here on the program, if you're so inclined to call in, 436-MeTV, option 11. Clearing the air, my friends. That's another issue that we want to talk about when you go in for mediation. So when you go in, how do you clear the air? What does that mean, clear the air?
Clearing the air is really just an open forum, if you will. This is when you have not identified what the issues are and you just kind of want to talk about, you know, that may be the list that one will have. And they're saying, you know what, he did this or she did this and that and this and that. And so we'll have to take one issue at a time to move forward. But, you know, it is just an open space to be able to communicate freely.
And restarting. What does restarting mean? Does that mean like doing a reboot on your relationship?
That is what the end result of the process is intended to achieve, because when you're able to figure out what those issues are, address the issues, write them down, and hold each other accountable, then you're giving each other a clean slate. So when you're moving forward, you're no longer thinking about the past and you did this and you did that and you did this and you did that and playing the blame game. Now you're saying, okay, from here on out, we're going to give each other a fresh start and we're going to move forward with our relationship with a clean slate.
All right. But when you walk out the door from your office or anyone's office, you got to be careful that you don't make bad decisions.
That is correct. Honor
because
the agreement.
Can fall back into those old habits again, like, I don't know, accusing the other person, for example, of something. And it's making bad decisions is easier than making the right decision. Is it not?
For some people. You know, some people just, you know, it's easier to run the red light than it is to stop. But the point of the matter is that if you are valuing the other person, if you love them, and if you want that relationship, then you're going to do all that you can to do the right thing.
How do you avoid making bad decisions? Does your other half of yourself, is it talking to you in your head saying, you know, that little voice saying, don't do it, don't do it?
Then listen. That's what I would say. Listen to that voice that says, don't do it, then don't do it.
Okay. All right. The next slide, let's put that up there on the screen, and we'll talk about this individually. Facilitate. Facilitate what?
You want to be able to facilitate a constructive conversation. And so if this was a construction site and every person is out there doing their part to create something beautiful, that's what mediation is all about as well. You have to do your part to create something beautiful. If you love that person and you want to make it work, then you're going to not so much as focus on the past and what happened to bring you to this place, but you're going to focus on what you can do now to change it, change the direction of the relationship, and save it if that's your desire.
All right, the next one, let's put that up. The agreement is reached. All right, fine, the agreement is reached, but you know what? That doesn't mean everything is going to be okay, because you can reach a deal, a handshake deal, a sign deal, whatever that agreement that you reached, you still need to work at it. A relationship and a friendship is work, is it not?
It is.
Takes a lot of work. So just because you signed a deal, okay, I signed a deal, I walked out the door, everything is okay. Not true, right?
No, you do have to work it. Now, what you put on paper is the first step, and the rest of it is really completely up to the two people, and it is a work in progress, because every day you are wanting to get better and better. So I feel like what has helped for me is to put little notes around my house that says every day and every way I'm getting better and better, or positive affirmations to remind myself. Or some people use bracelets, or they even get tattoos. I mean, it's really serious to that degree. But if you are wanting to honor someone, you'll do your best, and that's all that you can ask from the other person.
Now, I wonder if it's the same caller calling in. We've only had one call today, because only had one person have the courage to call in. Everybody's afraid that their voice...
That's all right. If it's the one, that's all it takes.
Okay.
I've done my job.
Is this the same caller? Go ahead.
Yes.
No. Oh, no, you're a different caller.
Welcome.
It's a female. It's a woman calling in. All
right.
Welcome. Hi. I really appreciate Ms. Valentine's wisdom.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask, I can't hear what he's saying.
Go ahead. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. I just want to ask, when someone doesn't want to go for mediation, what can you do? I mean, it's kind of like what he was talking about before with his wife, and if someone shuts down and they're stonewalling and they just don't want to commit, it almost does feel like a kind of passive-aggressive power. And I was just wondering, what can you do if you're the person who wants to go for mediation or counseling?
So what happens in those situations, I get callers from one person who will initiate mediation and the other party is really not quite ready yet. Then I like to tell them to pass on my name and my telephone number so that they can get information. And information is empowering because they may not be aware of what the process is entailed. And so, you know, they don't want to walk into a situation where they're blindsided or they're going to be attacked. And if I can give them the same information that you're getting today, then maybe he or she will change their mind. And I feel as if, you know, mediation is a place where it's confidential. It's voluntary, which is very important that people recognize it is voluntary. The magic in mediation does not happen if one party feels forced. But it's also self-determining, meaning that I am not there to tell anyone what to do. I am there to guide you through. And that's very comforting to people who are wanting to know what can they do to move past it.
You still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. No, that's good. I understand.
You know what I mean? And sometimes also I'll add that it's about ripeness. When a person has been hurt and they're trying to deal with those emotions, coming to grips with where they are and what they want to do, sometimes it takes them a little bit of time to get there. And so you'll need to be patient with them and let them know that when you're ready, honey, I love you, I care about you, and want to move past this. This is something that we can do to help us with that.
So did that help you, caller?
Yeah, a little bit. It turned out that he was into some bad stuff, and we're not together anymore.
Okay. Wow.
But I just wondered, at the time I felt so frustrated because people would tell you, well, you know, go for counseling or this is what you can do together, and it wasn't together. It was all me, and I thought, well, what's the problem? I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I guess, like you said, if you're patient, then that will come out too, if that's the problem.
Well, listen, I'm glad we got a woman's perspective here. I'm glad to hear from the females out there in the audience, and more of you should call in. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Thanks for that call. Back with more of Camille Valentine in a moment.
Hello, I'm John Walsh. We need your help to capture this fugitive. James Bell is an alleged child predator. Bell's wanted for molesting 3 girls ages 9 through 13 while working at a local YMCA in 2003. He was arrested, then fled. Bell has worked as a gymnastics instructor, coach, and a computer repairman. Bell could be anywhere along the West Coast. If you know where he is, call 617-742-5533.
We're going to go back to that list again, and we're going to pick it up with accountability. Being accountable once you walk out the door. What did Ronald Reagan say a long time ago, some 30-plus years ago? Trust, but verify. Is that what we're talking about here?
What we're talking about is just following through with what you're saying that you're going to do, very simply. And that's why the power in mediation works, because I'm not telling them what to do. This is an agreement that's coming from the two parties. And so if I'm saying, what are you willing to do to make this work? Then you're going to also hold yourselves accountable because you're going to write it down and sign on the dotted line.
Right. Let's put the next one up. It's called Write It Down. You have to write down a list of things that you're going to do once you walk out the door from that mediation, right?
Absolutely. That way you won't forget about it when you leave.
That's right. And then you can be held accountable.
And then you can be held accountable. Exactly.
Caller, you're there, I hope. Go ahead.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Basically, I've been listening to the various situations that how mediation could come in and kind of help clear the air on various issues. I'm in a relationship with somebody who's going through a custody and visitation issue with the child's mother. And basically, in an attempt to win the case against my fiance, she is getting really dirty about things. She's making up lies. She's falsely accusing me of things out of desperation to win her custody and visitation issue against the father. What can I do, or what can mediation do to help with that situation?
Oh, good question.
That is a great
you.
question, and it happens a lot, actually, throughout the court system. And what I try to do is catch those cases before you're at that point, and be able to address the issues that are at hand. And yes, mediation can bring all the parties together to discuss what can you do to support one another and create a visitation plan that works for everyone. And that has been very effective. So yes, mediation can assist in those cases as well.
Yeah.
If the other person is willing to come, that's the other part of it.
Yeah,
they have
what can
to
she do to fend off those false allegations if they are in fact
I'm not.
false?
All she can do is I'm not sure. She can just tell the
what
truth.
What can the court do about that? Anything?
I'm not at liberty to say what the court can do because I'm not sure about what the case is and what judge she has and things like that. But usually each person is able to speak on their own behalf, and that's when that's appropriate to say.
Running out of time, and I want to put up another full screen that's called Hash It Out. Hashing it out means you get behind closed doors with a mediator and do the following. People who are married should say, we have problems, I want to address those problems, be mature enough to admit and deal with it by talking it through and hashing it out in every way, shape, or form through the issues. Comment on this.
That's the point of the matter. That's what you're there to do, and you're there because you are not able to do it on your own. You get into an argument and you're not able to reach an agreement. But in mediation, I'm there to facilitate that conversation so that in the end you walk away with something that is beneficial and useful.
Okay, let's put up the final two graphics that we have here. It's injustice number one, recognizing the injustice, pointing the finger at one another or one party or another, and not pointing the finger at themselves. That's a major problem.
Absolutely, because they're coming in with their list. You did this, you did that, but I like to help them, once the error has been cleared and you vented for a little bit, now focus on what can you do for yourself to fix it.
And of course, until this happens, we're in an impasse.
Absolutely.
Basically. Okay.
You're never going to get anywhere if you keep blaming each other.
Yeah.
So.
Try to help that person focus on themselves, and that's a difficult process for you, the mediator, to focus on themselves, right?
I just simply do that by asking questions.
Yeah. And the blame game is not going to get anybody anywhere. And once that person recognizes the injustice, then we can move on. Apologize.
Absolutely.
Apologize.
An apology goes a long way.
Really? I'm
It does.
sorry, Camille.
I'm sorry, John.
We got 3 minutes. Do we have time to run one more Dr. Phil sound? We do? Okay. Dr. Phil in action, a divorced couple are in the process of getting divorced, trying to hash out their differences on national TV. The best forum or not? You be the judge.
Okay, do you believe that she has sexually molested the daughter here?
No, not at all, Dr. Phil.
You don't believe that?
No, not sexually. The only thing I was referring to there is what my daughter and son had told me.
Let me just say to both of you here, and I'm going to let you respond to this, but you've asked for my opinion.
Absolutely.
And you're going to get it.
I want to.
And you need to understand that I am especially trained as a forensic psychologist. And there are red flags that neither of you know that with a high degree of reliability predict manipulation and dishonesty. And I'm real curious to see who's going to wave those red flags the loudest today. I'm very troubled by that letter that was written by your daughter.
And so was I.
Very troubled by
Which
that.
I've never seen.
So
I've
was
never
I.
seen that letter.
Well,
unfortunately, there's many of them, yeah.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Which tells me that somebody here is allowing these children to deal with adult issues.
Yes.
And asking a child to deal with adult issues is a serious transgression.
All right, never let kids deal with adult issues, but the question is, and I got 30 seconds left, Dr. Phil's style of negotiation works for some, but maybe not others, right?
Absolutely.
Why?
Well, because he's, like he said before, he's a forensic psychologist, and so he's able to see things and he's able to tell people what he thinks and what he feels and what's good and what's bad. But in mediation, we're dealing with singular issues one at a time, and the agreement is going to come from each person. And so with that, there's ownership in that. And when you take ownership for something, you're able to address it and move past it.
Gotta go. Come back again, would you please?
Thank you. I sure will, John.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, too. Callers, if you need to contact me, I'm on Facebook, Valentine Mediation. I can be reached at 559-455-3080.
Thank you, Camille, and have a good day. Camille Valentine, our guest. Back tomorrow, Armenian Genocide 100th anniversary. Have a great day.